Hey everybody, welcome to On the Fringe. It's Dave. I'm here with Gavin,
Hey, hey, hey.
and we're going to be talking about one of the biggest geopolitical events to come out of the last 6 months. And Gavin and I were just talking, and I thought this was not going to happen, regardless of whether the US had attacked Iran. And Gavin, you have a different opinion about this. So,
I do. I do because I think things have been moving in this direction for a while. And while I think the Mecca Agreement, because that's what we're talking about, it's
hmm
the tripartite pact between Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey, that was signed on August 7th, so not that far away. I think that something like this pact was more or less inevitable with the climate in the region. And I think the reason why I think that, I agree that it wouldn't have happened this quickly or in the manner it did without the sort of extreme events of the last 6 months in the Iran war. However, the reason I say I think it was inevitable is because in the last 10 years, there's been increasing alignment, both in terms of, I would say, political ideology and military policy between the three countries. And also, I think that this alliance ultimately has as much to do with Israel as it does with Iran or the United States.
I
And
agree with you on that point that yes, it does have to do with Israel, and that's why Turkey joined. But I think,
100%.
but I think had this war with Iran not happened, Turkey would not have joined this. You would still have Saudi and Pakistan having tighter links with each other, but I think Turkey would still be sitting on the sidelines instead of actually drawing a line in the sand.
I disagree. I disagree with that because of the Israeli presence in Gaza and because of now, this is the bit where you're going to catch me up and you're going to say, well, this wouldn't have happened without the Iran war. I think so. Okay, I'm hedging a little bit because of the Israeli involvement, particularly in Lebanon, and I think because of the Israeli involvement in southern Syria, which, by the way, predated the Iran conflict. The Turks have essentially been at odds with the Israelis in such a clear way that I think an alignment with Saudi, not necessarily Pakistan, but an alignment with Saudi was becoming more and more inevitable. We've talked about on this pod, the Turkish government is very close to the current Syrian government. In fact, I think in the last 2 weeks, there have been joint Air Force exercises between the two countries. They're very tight in a lot of ways. And Israel has been very clear, particularly since 2023, of framing Turkey as a threat in the Middle Eastern region,
Mm-hmm.
as a threat to its interests. So I think this was always going to happen. Where we agree on is this would not have been signed on August 7th without February 28th.
No, I agree with that 100%. But
Hmm.
you have to look at this too. Which of the three countries would you say is the senior member of the Mecca Agreement? Where was it signed? It was signed in Saudi.
They're the
And I
money.
think exactly. And I think Turkey is not going to put themselves under Saudi Arabia unless they actually have to. And in a way, this puts Turkey in a position to where they do have to come to Saudi Arabia's mutual defense. On paper. On paper, I will
Hmm.
add. You had other mutual defense treaties like the CSTO
Hmm.
when Armenia and Azerbaijan had their war a couple of years ago. Did Russia actually come in and help Armenia? Did any of the other countries in the CSTO help Armenia? No,
Nope.
they did not. So again, this is just it's as good as it is. It's a piece of paper and it's been signed. Whether it actually comes
Hmm.
to fruition or not is a whole nother conversation. But in a way, I see Turkey putting themselves on the same paper as Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not going to let themselves be any lower than the first line.
No. And this is, again, there are a lot of reasons. There are particularly strong reasons why this was signed in Mecca. It wasn't signed in Jeddah. It wasn't signed in Riyadh. It wasn't signed anywhere else. It was signed in Mecca. It was signed in the holiest of holy cities in Islam.
Hmm.
Um, there's a reason for that. There are concerns, certainly not just in those three countries, that the interests of Sunni Muslim nations in the Middle East are maybe getting squeezed between the sides. There are also concerns, and I think this is why Saudi is so central to understanding this. And you're right, you're absolutely right about that, by the way. Saudi is concerned because they are extremely alarmed by what the Islamic Republic of Iran has been able to do in the last 6 months and is continuing to do. They're alarmed by the apparent American inability to defend them from a lot of the things that the Iranians have been doing. They're also alarmed by the fact that the United Arab Emirates now seems to be pretty closely militarily aligned with the Israelis and has kind of shut them out. There's concern. The other reason that I think Pakistan is involved in this, I mean, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, and we've talked about this, have a separate agreement which closely binds them. But Pakistan's involved in this because India comes in as a partner that is aligned with the UAE, that is aligned with Israel. And the Saudis are terrified of being outmaneuvered geopolitically in their own, in what they view as their own neighborhood. And I think that's why they brought Pakistan, they already have that relationship with. That's why they brought the Turks in, because Turkey provides, I think, the largest military in NATO outside of the United States. A lot of hardware and a lot of geopolitical projection power.
And
There, go ahead.
and and drone technology that Turkey has
And
readily exported across the region, and you'd even say into Ukraine and into Africa.
big time, big time. It's one of their specialties. And Saudi Arabia, I think at the moment is Bayraktar's biggest customer, or sorry, Baykar's biggest customer. They have a package. They have an order in place that's so large that no one can confirm how much it is. But they're a very large customer for that kind of technology, and a technology that's increasingly seen as indispensable if you're going to be involved in a major scale war, which they may be. Part of the reason why people think that this has been signed is a consequence of the current Iranian conflict has been, I think in the last month, Dave, there's been a lot of activity down south of Saudi Arabia.
Hmm.
And in what body of water?
That would be the South Side Sea around the
South
Gulf of
side,
Aden
the
and the
South
Red Sea.
Side Sea, the Red Sea, Dave,
Oh.
the Red Sea. I feel like I'm in class right now. No, it's the Red Sea. Yes. So the Red Sea and the Houthis are very much now involved in the Iranian conflict, and they have been targeting shipping, specifically shipping going through Saudi Arabia in the Red Sea. This is a major, major problem, and it's caused even more disruption of global supply chains
Well, this has been a major problem for Saudi for the last, you go over a decade. They've actually
over a
been
decade. Yeah, over a
in
decade now.
conflict, fighting a hot war with the
Hmm.
Houthis on and off. And Saudi, I think, is mainly signing this because they need to have a lifeline for their oil to get out of Saudi Arabia. And if the
Yes.
Strait of Hormuz is tied up, we got to have the other one around the Gulf of Aden open
Hmm.
so we can get that oil out to the
Exactly.
market. And it's too much for them to do it. And the U.S. is not a reliable partner, or as reliable as
Hmm.
they were seen to be. So they're recruiting the Pakistanis and the Turks to help them in case they are attacked. And I just want to point out, too, something when I was doing some research for this episode, that a Saudi refinery was attacked by the Houthis
Mm.
immediately after this agreement came into effect. And, well, Turkey and Pakistan did not come to their aid. So, as of
Again,
right now, mm-hmm,
to go back to what you said sort of at the beginning of this, and I think it's a really good point. Uh, there is going to have to be a serious demonstration pretty soon if this is to not just be regarded as kind of a paper tiger. The Saudis will be attacked, whether directly from Iran or from the Houthis. And I'm sure there will be a call on either the Pakistanis or the Turks, or possibly both, to assist them in some way. Now, if it is well, what's the euphemistic term? If it's an anti-pirate operation in the southern end of the Red Sea, and the Turks have to commit a few ships, and the Pakistanis have to commit a few ships, there are already ships down there. I think they will probably do that. The timeline might not be accelerated, but they'll do it. On the other hand, I think if the Saudis are preparing for another military intervention in Yemen, that may be a very different prospect. And
mm-hmm,
I kind of wonder how both of those countries would react to that level of involvement, which is a distinct possibility, as you pointed out. Their critical national infrastructure is being attacked. This is not, someone's not throwing a few firecrackers at a border wall. This is critical national infrastructure directly attacked. And I think if the Mecca Agreement wants to be taken seriously, you're going to have to do a little bit more than sending thoughts and prayers.
yeah,
But that runs a serious risk for escalation, in that Iran and Pakistan, unlike Saudi Arabia, both have land borders with Iran.
mm-hmm. And
So this is a real tightrope.
it is. And just pivoting really, really quickly here. So if you look
Mm,
at the UAE and the Israeli partnership,
mm,
over the last 6 months, the Israelis have sent over Iron Dome missile batteries to protect the UAE. And those
mm,
have protected the UAE. And we don't know how deep this relationship between these two countries actually goes in terms of military and in terms of helping the UAE potentially get water and technology and agriculture and everything else that these two countries are essentially trying to work on together. But there is action behind the words.
mm.
And with Saudi, Pakistan, and Turkey, we're yet to see any action. And I think it's going to depend on what happens. So if India attacks Pakistan, how are Turkey and Saudi going to actually come to Pakistan's aid? Or if Turkey goes, hey, we've got to deal with the Kurds, how are Saudi and Pakistan going to come to Turkey's aid? I mean, the jury is out on all of this. And that's why I'm going, okay, this is, like you were saying, potentially just a paper tiger, where, yeah, they will defend each other if the other country is attacked, but to what extent that attack for the other two countries to join in the fight is completely up in the air.
And the exact again, just to continue on what you're
Trigger
saying,
point.
the exact nature of the support. I mean, there's things that Turkey can provide, and there are things that Pakistan can provide that Saudi Arabia can't provide, and vice versa. Is Pakistan looking for Turkish assistance in Balochistan? I don't really think so. Is Turkey looking for Saudi assistance in Kurdistan? I don't. Again, the parameters of this thing are unclear. And what exactly is going to come out of this? I will say the one thing that everyone's saying that we're saying is, I think, separately of this being a paper tiger or not, this is a moment of huge significance, because this is not aligned specifically with a regional power outside of the region. These are three regional powers coming together and forming their own bloc. And I think what comes out of it, regardless, it's a very pivotal moment for that region where, it's not CENTO, it's not the Arab League, it's a separate geopolitical bloc that, at least again on paper, has teeth and has its own agenda. And this is, again, I think whether or not it does very much, it is going to make a lot of people in the region think very differently about who they're allied with and how those alliances are meant to work. And
And I
I
think
think, go ahead.
going off on that, who do they need to be allied with?
That's the nail on the head, really. Who do they need to be allied with, as opposed to who they are,
Yeah.
as opposed to who they are currently. And yeah, I think there's going to be, this is heralding in a period of what I would think of as geopolitical musical chairs, where you are going to see a lot of interesting combinations of countries joining up because
Hmm.
I don't think very many, again, I kind of saw something like this coming down the pipeline, but I think very few people would have predicted this to happen, certainly when it did. And I think now that it has, it's going to change a lot of countries' calculus about what are we doing with these guys?
Yeah. It might turn into a freshman dance where go out 5 minutes. Oh, this isn't really working.
You might be onto something there. You might well be onto something. And we will very much be keeping our eye on the Mecca Accord, the Mecca Agreement, the Mecca Pact, whatever you want to call it, the Joint Defense Agreement, I believe is the official title. We will be keeping an eye on this and reporting back soon.
That we will. And you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a star rating. Please leave us a comment as well. Shoot us an email on thefringe.podcast1@gmail.com. Look forward to hearing from you guys and hearing your feedback. And with that, I'm going to say thank you guys for joining us, and it's
Mhm.
time for us to go.